Shame that tune!
Please give a warm Elston and Wabansia welcome to Miss Claire Mooney. Okay, Claire, let's give the wheel a spin. And audience, shout out the song you hope comes up on the wheel, the one you're rooting for the most. Whisper Wham. Total Eclipse of the Heart. Audience favorite. We're stoked. Let's go. Okay, Claire, you have 3 minutes to shame that tune. On your mark. Get set. Shame.
Okay. So after college, I decided to move to Prague, and my boyfriend was going to move with me, and I was going first though. So I get there, and a few months later, when he bought a guitar instead of a plane ticket, I had a feeling that wasn't going to work out. But every time that we saw each other, like when I'd come and visit, you know, we would sort of pretend that we were still together. So when he came out to Europe with our friend's band, I went and met them, even though I was dating someone else. And we spent a really wonderful weekend traipsing around Germany together until we came back to Prague, where they were playing. So I also got my period that day that we came back to Prague, and so I had terrible cramps, so I popped a bunch of pain pills and then started drinking whiskey. And that took care of it. But so the ex and I are walking around Prague, you know, with our arms around each other, and it's wonderful and it's blissful. And then we run into my English boyfriend, who was sort of bummed, you know, to see this, but that's cool. He probably got more bummed when I asked to borrow money because I had spent all of mine on whiskey and pain pills. And so fine. So he gives me money and leaves. And my ex and I continue to go to the show where all of the rest of our friends are. And it's on top of the hill that's in the center of Prague where there's a castle. And it's about 1,000 feet up. And so we make our way up there, and we continue drinking, and I have my arms around him, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing and romantic, and you should live here, and like, this could be all the time. And he pulls back and says, well, this isn't reality, Claire. This is pretend. You have a boyfriend here, and I live in the States, so... to which I'm like, oh, right, I'm an asshole. And I start crying hysterically, and, you know, I'm the American girl that runs out of the club in Europe crying, and I, you know, buy and run off into the night. Well, I'm 1,000 feet up, and I don't have a car, and so I have to make my way down, and it's this zigzagging trail, and it's also January, so it's covered in ice and snow, and so I'm making my way down, crying, slipping and falling, and crying and slipping and falling and crying and slipping and falling. And finally, I've fallen again, and I see the street. I know exactly where it is that I have to go. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'm down here. I'm just going to scooch down the rest of this grassy knoll. And so I start scooching. And about halfway down, I realize that exactly where I have to go, there's this man standing there, and he's obviously wasted because he's wavering around, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. He's not going to be, you know, it's like, they're not violent in Prague, they're just annoying, I guess, or maybe I just don't want to talk to to him. I don't know, but I decided the best course of action is to start yelling at him in Czech. So I do, and nothing. He doesn't do anything. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go to English because somehow that'll make a difference. And nothing. He doesn't move. He doesn't even notice me. So I'm like, oh, well, the best thing for me to do right now is to just charge him. I'm just going to charge down the rest of this grassy knoll right at him, and he will definitely at least not talk to me. Maybe he'll get out of the way. It doesn't really matter. So I get up and I brush the snow off, and I just beeline it down this hill right at him. And it was a really big brass statue of this, I don't know, some famous Czech guy that had to do with like fertility and nobody saw though, and this is the first time I'm admitting it out loud. So I went home to my English boyfriend. The end.
Claire Mooney, everybody. Claire Mooney.